Yes, guys, we are back on Chasing Green Arrows. It's me, it's Bigman Backer. We're with you for the next hour. If you're watching on live, hello to you chasers in the chat. If you're watching on catch up, hello to you all as well. Drop a comment and still be involved in the show. We're starting with Malachi's comment straight away. He sent me a super chat. Malachi's one of my channel members. On my channel, he says, has G bought Salah yet? And I guess that'll be one of the big questions today, Malachi. We will answer that. I am buying Salah either this week or next week. That was always the plan, game week 14. I might have to fast forward that plan to game week 13 now. And a lot of it will come down to if I'm selling Haaland. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the, Gary says Trent is back. He is training. Will he start? We're not sure. Let's see if he starts versus Real Madrid tonight. Big man, how you doing? And congrats on another big, juicy green arrow.
Hello, Johnny. Hello, and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, thanks. It went all right. It's been a good period of FPL that I'm sort of going through over the past 3 weeks. I've had like 3 green arrows back to back, and it's mostly had to do with the Salah swing, and it's been very, very brutal for people like you. I can understand. I in fact tweeted the other day that it's been a 56-point swing for people who've picked Haaland over Salah, assuming that you've captained Haaland over him. And I assume a lot of people have. And this is not including the fact that some of those who sold Haaland jumped to forwards like Cunha. So if you include that swing, then that's like a 80-point swing minimum,
Wow.
which is insane. I didn't pick Cunha, but yeah, there were a lot of people who benefited from the double swings.
That is massive, isn't it? I mean, what do you make of the Haaland situation and Man City? Because I still think Haaland's a fantastic own for the festive run. The problem is my big question to keeping Haaland is how much am I going to captain him in the next 7-8 game weeks if I keep him? And if the answer,
let's jump into it straight away. If we can get the ticker on screen, I really want to discuss this, G, because it's sort of getting to a tipping point where a decision has to be made one way or the other.
And I'm making a decision probably tonight or tomorrow on it because of price rise tomorrow. So yeah, and absolutely this game week. My big question is what 3 premiums do you know what? I'm going to send our producer Faz a screen grab of the big ticker thing I've already done, and he can maybe show that because it's a bit easier to work out in the ticker. Big question is what 3 premiums do you want over the festive period? So I will send Faz a WhatsApp now with that image, and he can hopefully show it on screen. But yeah, I mean, it's do you want Haaland Salah Palmer drafts, or do you want Saka Salah Palmer, or Haaland Saka Palmer? Like, you just need to know what 3 you're going to own, because no one's going to own more than 3. But I feel like we're all going to own 3, right?
Do you think you need 3 though? I think Salah and Palmer cover you fine for captaincy. I don't think you need 3 realistically.
Yeah, but Saka, maybe even without captaincy, Saka feels like a very good pick. No.
He feels like a great pick, actually, but I would say I would definitely have 2 bare minimum. But yeah, 3 is team dependent. I think it depends on whether or not you can go there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Here's the ticker, Johnny. Coming to captaincy from game week 13. If we start, okay, Haaland is Liverpool this week. Salah is Liverpool this week. I don't think Haaland is a captaincy shot this week, so you can safely rule him out. Do you think you'd captain him if you owned him next week against Forest at home?
Do you know what? I think so. And yeah, no, absolutely. Do you know what? The image we're about to see in the next minute or two, when our producer's able to get it on screen, shows where I would captain between now and 20. And I've got, if I own a freemium, then Haaland is my captain in 14 and 15.
In 14 and 15. So you'd pick Haaland at home to Nottingham Forest as opposed to Palmer away to Southampton. I think that's a close call.
That is a close one, but I would home advantage.
Yeah. Even Liverpool away to Newcastle isn't bad, but I guess we probably go with Palmer if you don't own Haaland. I believe you're even saying you're going to captain Haaland in game week 16 away to in game week 15 away to Crystal Palace when Salah has Everton. I think I definitely go Salah there.
Do you in the derby? Yeah. It's a close one again.
Fine,
it's those two of those. Yeah, 2 of those captain calls are really close. Do you know? We'll come off the ticker because it's all going to make sense when I show you the plot map, which is way easier to visualize. Because then we can get your thoughts on the captaincy as well for those 3. What's your take on Haaland? When are you planning on buying him, and are you going to get him in? Because if we start spending, let's say we all have Salah and Palmer. Most watching have Salah and Palmer. Let's say they're moving towards Saka. The minute you buy Saka, for me, you're ruling out a move for Haaland ever. Like, you're never going to be able to, like, never. It's going to require a lot of surgery. For a long time, you're not going to own Erling Haaland if you move to Saka.
To be honest, Johnny, I mean, I had planned for him in game week 19 initially when I sold him, but the closer we move, the closer I'm leaning towards not planning for him at all, actually, because even if he's scoring like a goal or a brace like every game, it's sort of difficult to justify the captaincy when other people like Salah and Palmer are practically matching him for 2.5 million, 5 million cheaper.
Yeah,
I mean, Haaland really needs to get a significant points all to justify his value when others around him are doing so well. He literally needs to get hat tricks every game, which is really, really difficult because Salah's getting double digits all for fun. So is Palmer in general. I mean, last week was a bit of an aberration where Noni Madueke blocked his shot, but even had he scored, he would have had a double digit all over there as well. So, yeah. So for me,
this is my spreadsheet of my team, which I just keep like you do. And I was just plotting out what 3 I'm going to own for the festive period, because it will be from game week 13, right? Will I own Haaland, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Salah, Palmer, or Haaland, Saka, Palmer? And if I own that combination, where do I go with the armband? And what's really interesting for me is Saka, in only one of those situations, i.e. he's in option 2 and 3, only gets the armband once. And that's debatable. Like, that's game week 18, where he has Ipswich at home, but the same week, Salah has Leicester. Hence, he's only getting the armband once in the third option.
And I think Salah at home to Leicester will be more popular than Saka at home to Ipswich.
Yeah,
simply because
exactly.
he's Salah.
Yeah, so in option 2, that middle band where you own Saka and Salah, you're not captaining Saka at all because you give Salah the armband for Leicester.
Yeah. This is the point I was trying to make when you were saying when you were mentioning Saka and that you can go triple premium. Saka is a great player to own, but currently I'm not exactly sure whether he's a priority transfer in, because there are other ways to skin the cat as well. I like the idea of even going triple Arsenal defense and having someone like a Son instead. I don't think that's a bad call.
You mentioned that last week.
Course,
and paid off straight away with the double defense, didn't it?
And Saka is a good player to own, but I don't think he's a must-have because he won't be a realistic captaincy option as long as Palmer and Salah are fit. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I look at this. So come on then. If you can only go one of these 3, what's your preferred 3? Knowing you're sacrificing elsewhere. I was heading in a direction this week. My plan was always, we'll move on to your team in a minute. It's being very self-indulgent of me, but I need your help here, big man.
A lot of people are in the same position, Johnny. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, my plan, like last week, I sold Trent to Lewis Hall. I was going to sell this week Solanke to João Pedro. I've got the exact funds to do that and then go Bruno up to Salah. That leaves me with a freemium of Haaland, Salah and Palmer for the festive period. But it does then mean I've got no money to get another Arsenal defender. I only have Gabriel. I've got no money to move to Saka if I ever want to.
Or Trent.
If I go with my other option, which is to sell Haaland for João Pedro, I've got all the money in the world. I sell Dibbling to Salah, and it leaves me with a couple of million in the bank to do things like Bruno to Saka next week, double Arsenal defence, whatever. I'm flexible. But it means no Haaland, and it leaves me with the middle band there. Saka, Salah and Palmer probably for the festive period, which still for captaincy, as you say, Palmer and Salah for captaincy is good enough.
Gianni, if I was in your position, I'm pretty sure I would sell Haaland over Solanke.
Yeah. Thought you'd say simply that. I think that's the smart move, to be fair. I've been stubborn enough on it.
It's probably because the way I look at it, Haaland will be captain in 1 out of the next 7-8 weeks. I think even if you want Haaland back, you can plan for him in game week 19 or 20. It's fine. There's still plenty of time till game week 19, 20. There's 6 game weeks of football left, which is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Those Haaland captaincy options I've gone in green, on say option 1 at the top. In 14 and 15, it's a coin toss. Like, Palmer has Southampton away, Salah then has Everton away. You don't have to go to Haaland captain. So you're right. Like, there is no huge reason to keep Haaland, knowing you can do so much else. So I think that's probably likely what I do. Especially since
Again,
Arsenal play last night and score so many goals. Saka looks really good, and Arsenal are starting to function well now. Odegaard's back in the team. I think I will want Saka, but let's see.
exactly, and I want to touch a bit on Solanke as well. Quite a few people sold him last week for Isak, which was an all right transfer, I believe. But I don't know why so many people are looking to sell him. He's even had a price drop.
Has
I
he had
still
a
think
price drop?
he's
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, he's the exact kind of player you want to own over the festive period. He's going to play 90 minutes in most games. Spurs are top for XG
Yeah,
this season. They
yeah.
have an all right run of fixtures. The fixtures aren't great, but they're all right from an attacking point of view. You'd still expect Spurs to score in pretty much every game in this season
That
anyway.
fixture-proof Spurs anyway. They rack up big chances against any team, you know.
Exactly, and he's only 7.5. So why do you really want to sell him?
It's a good point. Like selling him ahead of Fulham at
prolific
home. Fulham just lost to Wolves. Like, City, you don't know.
No
what
Anderson
Spurs
potentially.
team turns
No
up,
Anderson
but-
potentially.
Oh, really?
He went off injured in the previous game.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Fulham played like the last 10-15 minutes with 10 men, so it must have been serious as well because they ran out of substitutions and he couldn't carry on.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Right, we'll move away from this and let's start addressing some of our big questions. They're running, I think, at the bottom of the screen every now and then. Hello to everyone in the chat, by the way. Do hit those buttons. We would love a like. We would love a subscribe. Big man, the big question for many will be which budget Brazilian that's the talisman for their team, that plays often 90 when fit, that has brilliant run of fixtures. Both could be on pens. We don't know about Cunha. Cunha's on all set pieces. Which one do we prefer? Like, there's over 1 million between them. When we do have to consider that when we discuss them.
I think you've answered the question, Shani. I think that 1.3, 1.4 million goes a long way in improving the rest of the squad. And I believe that João Pedro's fixtures are marginally better as well, especially the short-term fixtures. The Southampton at home fixture, for example, is a big carrot. Fair. I think it's going to be a good win for Brighton. And 5.5 million, 5.6 is just incredible value. I doubt that unless he gets injured, I sell him before the second time I wildcard. I'm looking at him as a long-term pick.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you buy João Pedro at that price, you're probably not going to move him on because worst case scenario, he just becomes your 8th attacker if things go wrong. With Cunha, you can't afford to have Cunha at that price not delivering points consistently. If form dip, if fixtures dip, you probably need to ship him on. So if you're looking long term, I'm with you, João Pedro. If you're looking short term, then the entry point again, João Pedro is better. I guess the benefit of Cunha is he doesn't come with the same injury issues, but João Pedro is not injured till he's injured. Let's just assume he's fit. I think we have to. The reason we get our transfers is so we can move them on. In brief though, if I'm on wildcard, or they're both in my wildcard team, I do think they're the optimal front line includes both of them. They're that good.
I think if I want a wildcard this week, I am so confident in Brighton's fixtures that I would double up with João Pedro and Welbeck.
Wow, I thought you were going to say that. That's really interesting. Okay, would you? Danny Wells.
Yes, and I'd go with Solanke as the third forward, and I'd double up on the Brighton. This fixtures, man, I mean, they're so good.
Yeah. Do we trust Brighton? Do we trust do we trust them to deliver in the easy fixtures? Because they always perform. Like they can go and beat a Man United or turn up against Arsenal. But do we trust them in the gimme home games versus Southampton? Because in theory, they should go win 4-0.
I think there's still sort of question marks about them defensively. And I'm not sure whether they're going to clean in these fixtures, but they're at least going to get some attacking returns every now and then. They're going to score in these fixtures. I'm fairly confident, which is why I'm all right with the idea of potentially doubling up on their attack. So Southampton at home, Fulham, Leicester, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Brentford. That's the next 6 for Brighton. That's really strong.
Yeah, that is. I mean, Shaz says Solanke. No, he said Isak to Cunha, a good move. I wouldn't be selling Isak. Like you've probably only just.
I think Isak is fine. Yeah, Isak is a very good player to own. I don't think I'd be selling him.
Yeah, agreed. It's tough. A lot of the forwards out there at the moment, I look at and go, I wouldn't want to sell Solanke. I don't want to sell Solanke. It's one of my options. I wouldn't want to sell Isak. I certainly wouldn't want to sell Chris Wood for one of those players we've just discussed because Chris Wood's got Ipswich at home this week. Like maybe then you sell him, but you can't be selling Wood ahead of Ipswich at home. Visser, if he starts, and he should start, he's got A great home fixture too against Leicester. Although it is worth noting for Johan Visser, Thiago, the big money signing who's been bought to replace Ivan Toney, is now back fit. He got 19 minutes, I think, the other day. He could be close to getting a 30 and then a 60. So I think Visser is probably on borrowed time at some point. But let's see. Thiago's going to get minutes. Eat into those Visser minutes anyway. Nice. Okay, big man. You're likely to go without a Wolves forward then for the foreseeable, you reckon?
I think so. I think some of their best fixtures are done. I mean, the fixtures are still good, but they're not as good as Southampton at home, or let's say Fulham, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even Fulham away was actually I'm actually wrong, because Fulham away I did not expect Wolves to do this well.
We all had. I bet we all had Fulham to win that in our sleeper pick'em leagues. Or it was a gimme. I thought for Fulham, I was surprised.
It was a gimme.
Jimenez scores.
And dude, even in the previous episode, we were discussing this with Dean, and generally is sort of pessimistic when it comes to Fulham. He was very confident in the game, which really surprised me, right? And he was like, "Oh, I'm very excited for tomorrow. I'll wake up, early and watch the games, etc." And Fulham got rinsed.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm still very happy to own Cunha, and I'm really optimistic. And Wolves have got. You're right. João Pedro edges it on fixtures, but Wolves still do have this week. Bournemouth at home is a good entry point because Bournemouth will come and play. I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth win, but Wolves will score. Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester. It's still a great run of 5 games for Wolves. It's just a shame that 3 of those are away. The Everton, West Ham, and Leicester games are all away, but they've just gone to Fulham and won. So I'm still backing Wolves to bang big and think Cunha's a great buy still. Should we move on? What's our next question?
Yeah, the next question. Where's the producer?
We will be hitting those like and subscribe buttons, I hope, guys. Thank you for all your support.
And subscribe to the channel as well, please. Please.
There you go. You heard him. Big man, congrats, by the way. You beat me in our sleeper draft league the weekend. And you had Rashford and Vicario coming up big time for you. I mean, who would have thought Rashford and Vicario were going to get big points? Vicario got you like 7.9, I think.
Yeah, Vicario was huge for me this week, but I'll probably have to sell him.
Yeah.
I still haven't really thought about my replacement.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Johnny, I think let's cover captaincy because captaincy was one of the questions. I think let's jump into captaincy. I want to discuss this with you. You sort of briefly touched upon this. As of now, who's your GW13 captain and why?
Palmer, because he gets a rest. And Villa are going to be leggy after Juventus tonight. Chelsea play a B team in Europe. Chelsea, most of the players will have had a rest. Palmer especially, because he won't be in the squad. And Villa will put so much energy. I remember when Newcastle made the Champions League a couple of years ago. For a club, without sounding patronising, of Aston Villa and Newcastle's level that don't play Champions League very often, when they're in those games, it takes a ton of prep, a ton of work. It's the players' big moment. That I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit tired and leggy versus Chelsea. And look, Palmer at home is always a good bet. Villa give you chances. So I'm on Palmer, and I also like Mbermo, but I'm on those two, not Salah. If I own Salah, I don't think I'll be captaining him.
Why though?
Because I still want to back against him. I'm owning him to cover myself a bit, and he's ruined my season. Let's make no doubt about that. It's season-defying what's happened in the last 3-4 weeks with me and no Salah and captaining Haaland. But I'm still happy backing against him, but owning him is my insurance. I genuinely think Palmer's the better shout.
I tend to agree with you. And I was actually just having a look at some of the bookmaker probabilities to score and assist this week, and I would like to run you through them.
Yeah.
I, in fact, tweeted as well. So Palmer is clear on 67%. Score versus this week's. That's very high.
Wow.
That's very high.
I'm surprised at that. That is high.
Mboma is 62%. He's second.
Right.
Salah's third on 60. Saka is 55%. And Bruno is like 54%. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. And I completely agree with you. It's also the fact that Aston Villa's defense has been very leaky in recent weeks. They don't look great defensively.
All season.
Like you mentioned. Exactly. And like you mentioned, Palmer at home is generally a very reliable bet. So I'm going to go with Palmer, I think, this week. Even though I suspect that Salah will do well, but Ake sort of done a job on him in recent fixtures when you consider Liverpool versus City. So I don't think Salah will score like a hat trick personally, or get a brace even. I think he'd probably score once, and I think the ceiling for Palmer is higher.
I'm with you. I think that's where I'm at. I mean, Salah's record against City is really good, but I just feel like the ceiling is lower in that fixture, and Chelsea could really thump Villa. Let's see. I mean, is Mbeumo worth? He's worth discussion. Is he worth considering? Because originally I looked at this game week as an Mbeumo week. I think because the last few weeks he's had sort of fairly modest outcomes, and Brentford maybe we trust him less. But Brentford at home are top of the charts in the home form. Managers
exactly. I think Mbeumo's probably second for me.
Yeah, he's my vice is on Bruno. Is on.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
On, yeah.
Same. The thing with Mbeumo is that his underlying data has dropped off a bit in recent weeks. So if you look at, let's say, the past 5-6 weeks, he's had 3 shots inside the box. That includes a penalty, and the fixtures have been favorable. So that's one thing that is playing on my mind. That the stats have dropped off alarmingly.
Yeah.
I still think he's a good asset to own, and the fixture is actually so good that you still expect him to do well anyway. But yeah, I'm just looking for reasons to nitpick against him, and that's the reason I sort of have with his recent underlying data.
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
What do you think about Leicester though? They'll probably be without a manager this week. New manager bounce? Any chance?
I feel like Leicester have been one of. Have they been the worst? Or I was going to say I think they've been the worst team in the league this season, and I know the position, the table doesn't say that, but I feel like Leicester have offered. I think Leicester have offered the least in terms of threatening attacks. Southampton at times have showed us something. Same with Ipswich. Go on.
I have this question for you, and this is like a crazy stat. We're like 12 game weeks into the season. You mentioned that Leicester, even when you look at their XG is terrible, and they every time you watch them, it looks as if they're not offering any threat. Do you know how many times they failed to score in a single Premier League game this season?
Is it once?
They've played 12 times.
Is it once?
It's once.
I heard that on commentary the other day, and I was like, "What?"
Exactly. So they always jam away to score. Very much similar to what they did against Chelsea. Off low XG, very much similar to what they did against Chelsea, where they practically offered no threat all game, then jammed a penalty right at the end.
Yeah,
exactly. So they've been doing this, but their underlying data is actually terrible, and I think they're as bad as Southampton, if not worse.
They're a worse attack than Southampton, I think. But yeah, I mean,
Southampton's attack is better actually. Southampton's defense is probably worse, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Leicester can defend, but new manager. I mean, I don't know if we know who the new manager is even going to be. I don't know if they'll be in place. I don't see the dressing room having much of a reaction there. I look at that team. That Leicester team is worse in the Premier League than what it was in the Championship. In the Championship, obviously they had a good manager in Maresca, but they also had players like, they had Dewsbury Hall. He was their best player last year, and they've lost him and not really replaced him. So, yeah, they're down, and I fancy Brentford, who are great at home, who are great at producing big chances, to absolutely bang. And if you own Visser and Mbeumo, you're getting points this week. Genuinely am tempted to captain Mbeumo. It's not a foregone conclusion that I go Palmer. It will be one of them, though. I did a Twitter poll earlier, and we've got a poll live at the moment, but a slightly bigger sample size on the one I did a couple of hours or an hour ago. Salah's about 50%, Palmer about 30%, and Mbeumo 13%, and Haaland 5%, and there'll be a few that maybe go Saka. Or even João Pedro or Cunha. Like, it should be a big week. There's a lot of good options.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Salah to be comfortably the most popular captaincy pick simply because he's been doing so well, and because City, especially after last night, I mean, that was farcical, right? So I'm expecting Salah to be comfortably the highest owned captaincy option this week. So even if you're buying Salah this week, you're going to be rooting against him because the effective ownership, it's going to be over 100 comfortably.
I know. I don't mind. Do you know, I've rooted against Salah so long. It will be quite nice rooting against him. And even if he bangs, not being completely devastated, because at least I own him. There's an insurance there. I've not had that insurance. Like, backing against a player who's got high EO, 9 times out of 10, when you do that, you at least own the player. For the last month, I've not even owned the guy who I'm backing against, and it has been painful.
That's made the swing more brutal, right? So in any normal week, if you get the captaincy decision between 2 players wrong, at least you own them, right? So it's fine. It's not the end of the world. That's
not for me.
Really brutal.
It's been hell. It's been absolute hell, genuinely.
Because I actually, this again sort of I was listening to your discussion with Dean on Monday as well, on Chasing Green Arrows, and you were right, because the rest of the team that you have has done all right. You had Cunha. I mean, Cunha has been an
They
amazing
saved me a
buy,
bit.
but yeah, the captaincy is actually so important that even if you're sort of having, let's say, even if you have like 10 pieces of wood and you have a good captain, you're still gonna sort of meander along.
Yeah.
But if you have like 10 really good players and a really poor captain, it doesn't really get you to where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going. Here we go. Sexy Beast is just my opinion about how much that's riding on the game is a must win for City is now going to be edgy, cagey. Maybe, but you could say the same about last night. That should have been edgy and cagey and a 1-0 City win, and it was 3-3. They are all over the place. Man City are 4-1. 4-1 to beat Liverpool. I've never known City be 4-1 in a Premier League fixture under Pep. They're 4-1 at Anfield. Like, the bookies really don't see Man City winning that football match. What's your take, big man? They can't defend.
That's very surprising. Yeah, I mean, I don't recall City being 4-1 in like a long time.
Yeah, I heard it on the radio this
Right.
morning. They were talking. They'd like the guy from Coral or whatever on the show to talk about it. It was on TalkSport. But yeah, it's huge odds.
I mean, I'm expecting City. I'm expecting a high scoring game, actually. I'm expecting both teams to score probably something like 2-2. What do you reckon? Or do you expect
Yeah.
Liverpool to just walk away with it?
No, I fancy it to be a tight game. I think Sexy Beast has got a point, but I do fancy Liverpool to nick it, like maybe 2-1 or maybe a score draw. But yeah, I definitely don't. I'd be surprised if City managed to keep Liverpool out. That's why I need to go Salah this week. My plan was always Salah in 14, but Salah's going to get a ton of chances. Like, he just is, because City are conceding big chances like never before.
For fun.
Like
They're
never
conceding
before.
big chances for fun.
They're always one of the best defenses. Even when they concede goals, it's always like, oh, it's one stupid goal from a low XG chance. Poor City, my poor Edison own or whatever. But now
this
they're never going
started.
to keep it clean.
This started when they played Fulham, actually, in
Yeah.
game week 5, I reckon it was. And they've been outscored in XG in quite a lot of games, which is very rare to see when it comes to City, because City are always dominating the XG against the other side. But this season, it's quite different. The defense isn't as good as it normally was.
You're right. The XG battle is surprising. They've been out XG'd in like probably 40% of their games this season in the Premier League, I'd say, as a guess. Like, that's just, you don't see it. Okay, captaincy discussed. Nice. The poll, by the way, in the chat, 43% have said Salah, 31 Palmer. So similar to sort of what I saw on Twitter. What are the other big questions of the game week, big man? Captaincy, Brazilian budget forwards, we've done.
We also were supposed to discuss Jimenez. I think we've discussed Jimenez to a decent extent. You're
happy enough there, aren't you? That's not a priority sell for you.
I'm happy enough, and I think we've covered Son to Saka in a bit of detail as well. I think if you have Son, I don't think I'd sell him this week, because the odds of scoring or assisting are very similar to Saka. So even though I believe that Saka is a superior player to own, I'm not sure whether this is the fixture to sell Son. You agree?
Son's got the home advantage this week as well. If Saka was at home to West Ham, I think it'd be a different story. But off the back of West Ham keeping a clean sheet and beating Newcastle, and Arsenal travelling to Portugal in the week, I don't love it as an entry point for Saka. Like, it's fine, but I don't see Saka. A few are captaining Saka this week. I don't see that. Not for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a low-scoring Arsenal win, 1-0, 2-0, something of that sort.
A clean sheet, I can see. What do we make of Maddison, says Repent? Maddison punt. I mean, it looks like he's probably played his way into the team, but if you're going for a budget Spurs mid, Kulusevski is like 6.3 million, and he's definitely the better value pick. Maddison 7.5. Brennan is a sell, by the way. Brennan is a sell, Shaz.
The thing with Kulusevski is that you don't necessarily know his role in the team, right? He could play on the right, he could play deeper.
We do know he plays 90, though.
Maddison has probably played himself into the team, but he was out of the team before this as well. So I'm not exactly sure how long this will be the case for, because he does have plenty of options in there where, Brennan, Kulusevski, Maddison, all these guys can play instead of each other.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, one thing we know about Kulu is he's a 90-minute man guaranteed to play. Like, whether he's on the right or in the middle, he is Ange's boy. Maddison could be in and out. He's had a price rise, Maddison. I'm surprised at that. Brennan Johnson, guys, is an absolute sell, because if Maddison starts, then Brennan doesn't, because Kulu plays on the right. There we go. So yeah, interesting there. I mean, any other sort of, if we're looking at Mbermo in a couple of weeks and we're looking for a sort of mid-price midfielder, is Kulu someone you looked at, or Ahmad at 4.9? Like, where are you looking in terms of potentially an Mbermo replacement?
See, this is the point. I don't think any replacement is as good as Mbomo, irrespective of the fixtures. And because you've bought him for cheaper, do you really want to sell him? Because he's probably going to be a transfer back in let's say 6-7 weeks, but still, right? Are the likes of Ahmad or Brennan or any of these guys in this price range on the same level? I'm not as confident.
I'm not sure I'm selling him either. I just know a lot are planning to, and I've seen a lot sell him already. By the way, he's got Leicester this week. Do not sell him this week, anyone.
Yeah, Gianni, this is another question that I had in mind, is that, the plan with Bruno, because you own Bruno as well, I own Bruno, we also own Mbomo. So what are the plans with these two after this week? Obviously, they have good fixtures this week, but from next week onwards, their fixtures are turning. So currently, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking Saka, but I don't know if it will be...
For Bruno?
At the moment, yes. But I will have enough money to sell Mbermo to Saka.
Enough money to sell Mbomo for Saka.
So I could go either. If I go Mbermo to Saka next week, I get Saka as an entry point at Man United at home. It's not great. But Mbermo's away at Villa and Brentford are terrible on the road. If I replace Mbermo with Saka, I don't have money or much money to make luxury moves like double or triple or double Arsenal defence and stuff like that. If I'd go Bruno to Saka, I've got a little bit more to play around with in the defence to target a Trent or another Arsenal defender.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I'm not
currently
sure. I think I want Saka, but I'm not sure who I sell first, Bruno or Mbermo. The plan is Bruno.
No. My thought process currently is that I think if I was to pick one, I think I'd probably keep Mbomo because he's cheaper. And if I was to move on, I think I might sell Bruno for the next 3 fixtures. But it is a bit tricky. It is a bit tricky for sure.
It's Arsenal away, Forest at home, City away for Bruno. The other 3 we're talking about. It is a rough 3, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the run where I might look at selling Bruno. But then again, I mentioned this in the previous stream as well, Gianni. I think selling either of them is a bit of a luxury, given the festive period, the congested fixtures that are coming up, because these 2 players are exactly the kind of players you want to be owning. Solid, robust picks where you're not exactly concerned about minutes. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I also want to actually touch briefly on Semenyo, because a lot of people have Semenyo, and he was suspended after getting his 5th yellow card. He won't be playing this week. So what would you do if you had Semenyo? Let's say.
Easy hold for me. If 1 week you have to play one of your bench players who's going a dibbling and you're going to get 2 points only, that's fine. For 1 week, Semenyo is someone I think you want in for the festive period. Again, when we talk about talisman that play 90, Semenyo ticks a lot of boxes. He is the main man, I think, this season so far at Bournemouth. Off the back of his rest versus Wolves, because he's suspended. He then plays Spurs at home. You'll get a lot of chances versus Spurs at the Vitality. And then he goes to Ipswich away, West Ham at home. Like, it's a good set of 3 fixtures for Semenyo. I like him. And Bournemouth have got great fixtures until sort of mid-Jan. They've got a really good run. Semenyo's an easy hold for me.
Yeah, I think I'd hold him as well, simply because his underlying data is actually really, really strong. He's only had fewer shots than Haaland this season. So he's really shot happy.
Wow.
He loves taking shots. He's second for shots. And at his price, I doubt you'll find better players to pick. So if you have a playable 8th attacker this week, by all means play him over Semenyo. I would bench him and I would hold him because the fixtures are good to come as well.
Morgan Rogers has got a couple of good fixtures around the corner. He's away at Chelsea this week. He'll be on a fair few benches, I would have thought.
I'm mentioning him.
I'm bench Rogers. Shall we see your team then? Let's have a look at how you're set up. Because if I go with my plan -4 of Salah in for dibbling, I want to keep Rogers as my 8th attacker. It means Rogers becomes my 8th attacker. And at the moment, he's pretty much your 8th attacker. Like, you're comfortable with that, are you, over the festive period? I mean, there's going to be Raul Jimenez will miss a game. Solanke could, Rogers could, João Pedro could. Like, there's going to be a bit of rotation for the midweek rounds, isn't there? So having a good 8th attacker in place is no bad thing.
Exactly, and I think Rogers would be my 8th attacker in most weeks. For example, he's there this week, but he rotates well with Raul, right? So that's my plan, to have Raul and Rogers as a flexible seventh attacker. I'm sort of concerned about Gabriel this week. If Gabriel is out, and if Dunk is out, because Dunk apparently hasn't been in training, then my
Yeah.
defense it reeks really, and I I don't know what to do.
You're going to have to play Mikolenko versus Man United, I guess. Like I might have to play Rico Lewis versus Liverpool if Gabriel's out. So is it worth the
If Lewis
transfer?
is Lewis starting, you reckon? I'm not sure.
Don't know. I mean, they did all right in the middle of the park yesterday until, well, for the first 60. So yeah, I'm not sure. I've got Greaves who's flagged, and again, a bit like Dunk, like Greaves is back in training, and Greaves is first choice for Ipswich. He's not been around. I'm hoping Greaves comes straight back in, but yeah. So has Dunk played since his injury?
No, he hasn't. Right. That's the issue. That I'm. That's why I'm a bit concerned because there's every chance that he
He was
might get the
available
cameo
last
appearance.
week. Yeah, I thought he was
He
available
wasn't.
last week. No, he
No,
wasn't. No.
he the manager said that he was close,
Yeah.
but he wasn't actually spotted in team training. He was spotted in the gym, and he was spotted doing
Right.
some individual training. And similarly, that's been the case again this week, where he's in spotting training individually, but not with the team.
Doesn't look great then, and they've been winning games without him. There's might not seen as a rush back for Southampton at home. So
It's also a Friday night fixture, so there's barely any time left.
yeah, I don't know. Do we get Brighton leaks? I don't think we get Brighton leaks, do we?
I doubt it. But I would expect Rosler to be at least transparent regarding, his
Training, at
position.
least.
Yeah, I mean, the thing which sort of worries me is the fact that Van Hecke picked up a similar injury this season, where he was out for I think 3 or 4 games, and then he came back and he got a 9-minute cameo off the bench. Right, so he could offer something similar with Dunk because it's exactly like you say. It's not exactly a fixture where they need him. So I really, really hope that Gabriel is fine. Do you think he will be fine? Do you think there's anything serious to it?
I don't know. Arteta said post-match like he was uncomfortable. He was ready to put Sterling on and then didn't because of this injury. With 5 minutes left when you're cruising as a centre-back, you'd usually play through, like no player's ever 100%, right? So you'd think you just manage it. It clearly, even with 5 minutes left, he felt he had to go off, which for a centre-back who often probably plays with quite a few knocks makes you think it's a little more than that. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does miss out. And in Calafiori, they've got the left-sided centre-back ready to go. Like you also have Calafiori at centre-back, and then Kivior or Zinchenko fit. I don't know. Someone comes in at left-back, but or even Timber plays left-back and Partey right-back. Who knows? But I don't. It's not ideal, but if you're Arteta going into a busy run of really big games, you don't need to unnecessarily risk Gabriel. Yes, he's important, but Calafiori is a centre back, and he is a left footer.
Yeah. So it doesn't really seem ideal, but I'm hoping that because the game was won, Gabriel was substituted because either he was tired or something of that sort.
Yeah,
And
he could have just been like, "Why risk it? I'm coming off. I'm fine."
The worst thing is that we keep having these sort of niggles injuries with Arsenal players every week, and it's always Arsenal mostly, and it's always Arteta to ruin our plans. So I want to ramble a bit about my team, Gianni, if you give me the opportunity. I remember you did similar last week, so I want to take like 30 seconds or 1 minute of your time to sort of run you through a bit of my, let's say, frustrations. So in game week 9, I got Duncan because I wanted him for this period from now on in. And it's looking likely that he won't be fit and available, even though at that point there was like a month's difference. And I would have thought that, Dunk at that point was a very secure pick. That didn't happen. Okay, no problem. In game week 10, I then had to make funds for Trent. So in order to make funds for Trent, I chose Raul over Cunha. And that has been that's been like a 20-point swing. 25-point swing, actually, right? Then in game week 11, I bought Trent in a week where Liverpool kept a clean sheet and Trent got 1 point.
After 19 minutes, he went off, didn't he?
Exactly. He went off after 19 points. Then the week after that, I had to sell Trent. I wanted to get, there were 2 or 3 options. I could have saved the transfer. Had I saved last week, who would I have had coming off the bench? Because Dunk wasn't there, I would have had Porro for his 14-pointer, and I kept Trent. Right? I would have had Porro. So I sold Trent. I wanted to get in Timber because he was
Yeah, we
cheaper,
discussed this. Yeah.
but he wasn't in training, so he wasn't spoiled in training. So my hand was forced, and I had to jump to the safer Saliba. And now I can easily see Timber outscoring Saliba just because of how attacking he is.
He got an assist last
And
night. Assist last night for Timber.
yeah. I'm already resigned to losing some points over there as well. So even though I've done well in recent weeks, where I've had 3 green arrows and Salah's done well, and the rest of the team has done all right, Bruno especially, but it does sort of feel as if, especially my transfers, that the planet Earth is conspiring against me. So it feels really, really frustrating.
Yeah, it is, man. That is some big swings. Like it shows. Like that also shows though the fact you've been on green arrows and you've got some good picks in place, sure, that have been producing some points, even though you should have had more points. If captaincy goes for you, you hit. Like that is all you really need in this game to do okay. You want to do better than okay, and you deserve to be doing better than okay. So the captaincy hasn't been enough, but it makes me realize, like the last few weeks especially, like what a huge part of this game is, which is why it's just like I hate the rule. I've never been good at captaincy. Honestly, I can think of so many examples over years gone by in seasons where at the end of the season you see a captaincy figure and you go, I'm always bottom rank with captaincy. Like I'm terrible at it. Never listen to my advice on captaincy, guys. But yeah, you've been a little bit robbed there. You've kept you've kept Pedro Porro though because you sold Trent, and that does look good, I think, now for the festive period, having seen Spurs play against City, and the fact that you've got that money in the bank from Trent. So I feel like your decision to sell Trent was still the right one, even though it meant you didn't get Porro's points off the bench.
I think when you look at the likes of, let's say, I'm talking more long term here after this week. So Mbomo, Fernandez, Porro, Flecken, I think there are 4 players. These are 4 players who I think I won't necessarily want in my team next week. But because I don't exactly have the luxury of having more than one free transfer, I will be forced to prioritize selling one over the others. And that's going to be really tricky next week. So, for example, Flecken to Rise, something I can do, Gianni. I can do Bruno to Saka, like mentioned. I could even do Porro to Guardiol. And I don't think that's a bad transfer because Guardiol has been ridiculously attacking in recent weeks. Like he's practically playing as a left winger. He created like 8 chances against Spurs as well. So, and the fixtures after this week are good. I know that City have been terrible defensively, etc. But even if they are bad, only Arsenal, Liverpool will be better defensive than them this season, and City will comfortably be the best third defense in my opinion. They're not going to be worse than the other guys, right? So, yeah, it's not a bad pick in my opinion.
But this is for next week or this? Like, do you think you'll end up rolling this
next week?
Yeah, but this week is likely to be a roll then. Oh no, you've already gone.
I mean, I've already done Calvert-Lewin to Pedro, right? I should have mentioned.
Sorry, yeah. No, you did. You. I knew that. Of course, you had to sell. So, did you make 0.2 there? Was Calvert-Lewin gonna?
Yeah.
You made 0.2 in that move.
I've already made 0.2, and I'm expecting to make more before the deadline.
Yeah, João Pedro, I think is probably due to go up. I'm guessing Thursday night. I don't think he's due a price rise tonight, but João Pedro, just like Cunha, went up on Saturday night. I think like straight away.
Yeah.
As did I think Mo Salah. Okay, yeah, nice. Captaincy we've discussed. João Pedro in place looks great. Mate, you've got a cracking looking team. And it'll be interesting to see if you do go Raya. Because if you go triple Arsenal defence, that looks wicked. But that does rule out ever moving to Saka easily. And it's like, that is a bold call if you do that.
I'm actually leaning towards doing that.
I thought you might
Assuming
be.
nothing
I
else
like
comes
it.
up.
Honestly, I think they are going to keep so many clean sheets. Yes, Saka will score goals. But how much are those clean sheets going to be worth? A lot. Especially because you got Flecken as well. Like if you had, like me, Sels and Fabianski, you might not be as tempted because, they rotate well. They've got good enough fixtures. But Flecken's, he's not going to keep any cleans after this week.
Exactly. And, the fixtures are absolutely horrid. He might get, some save points here or there. So that's a bit of a dilemma that I'm facing. But anyway, I'm glad I don't have to make the decision this week and I can sort of defer it for a few days.
Yeah, exactly. Very good, guys. We are happy to take your questions. Big man, I think that's probably good for your team. I mean, I don't think you'll be making a defensive move, will you? Like, if your hand was forced, you're not going to be taking a 4-point hit. You just play Mikalenko. You just play. You're not going to take a 4-point hit, are you?
I don't want to answer that question. I
I'd
might.
play Mikolenko, mate. Sean Dyche, you never know. He could go and get a 0-0 at Old Trafford. It's Sean Dyche.
United were terrible against Ipswich, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, they are at home, and it is Amram's first home Premier League game. Are United home or away on Thursday night? Are they travelling or not?
I'm not sure.
That means that plays a little bit in my thinking. Let's have a look. Man United fixtures. Oh, they're at home.
Yeah.
Saliba's Timber?
Salib,
no, don't use a transfer.
Not at all. Not at all. Now that you've made your bed with Saliba,
it's not worth
just hope that
points.
he gets a set piece goal or something. Buy Saka or Palmer this week. I definitely prefer Palmer. Has to be a priority transfer, and if you don't have him already.
Yeah. Bowen or Foden? Gosh. Probably Bowen. Thanks, Ice G. Good question. Oh, I'd sell Foden, by the way.
Nick is asking, Haaland till today and want to switch now. Who would you go to? João Pedro.
That's probably my move this week. Haaland to João Pedro is going to be quite a popular one. It's mental. Matthew Perry, do you think Muniz will take minutes off Rao? Yeah, but not starts. He'll get one start over the festive period, maybe. Rao's first choice.
Muniz isn't good enough. Muniz isn't good enough to really threaten him. Isak and Digne to JP and Timber. I don't think I'd sell Isak. Please keep Isak. I mean, I assume that you've gotten him in like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I think he's a good player to hold.
I wouldn't sell Dean either.
Blanked once doesn't necessarily mean that he's a terrible pick.
Guys,
if you can do Dean to Timber for a free transfer, then that's something I would do probably.
But not if you've just put Dean in. And I don't know if Sally has or not. But Dean is first choice. I know Maddison played, but that was purely because of the Champions League around the corner. In fact, Dean was busy in the international break.
Yeah, Dean would probably play most fixtures, but I just think Timber is a much bigger upgrade.
Yeah, on wildcard, you're on Timber all day long, aren't you? Yeah. Foden to Palmer. Yeah, like that. Foden to Palmer's definitely make that move. If you've got enough money in the bank to go Foden to Palmer, you hit the button.
Easy transfer, in my opinion.
Foden's bad.
The next question is for Abi Odegaard from Bomo next week. Odegaard is an interesting one. I don't hate the idea of doing this. I think Odegaard could do well, but I would still currently lean towards thinking that triple or double Arsenal offense would offer a better value. So LH is asking, Bigman, are you keeping Solanke long-term? Spurs are very attacking, but he's not involved in most goals assists. Yeah, we've sort of mentioned this earlier in the podcast that I'm currently looking at Solanke as a pick, set and forget pick for a while, because at 7.5 million, he's playing for a team that is ranked first for XG in the league. And they're, like Gianni mentioned, he's more or less fixture-proof. We've just seen them score 4 against City. They're pretty much going to score against anyone in the league. So, yeah, I think I'm very happy keeping Solanke for a while. The fixtures are still all right.
Yeah. I've Rao and João Pedro. Stick with them. If you can't afford, especially if you can't afford Cunha, stick with.
Jackson or Isak if buying in 14?
Oh, good question, Matt. That's a great one.
Ideally, I would prefer Jackson because of his fixtures, but it's just one thing that will play in my mind is the 4 yellow cards. He's on 4 yellow cards, so could miss a game here or there. If you have 8 playable attackers and if you're fine with Jackson potentially missing a fixture in the festive period, then I would prefer Jackson.
Chelsea are a much better attack. The problem with Jackson is also he does get subbed a lot. Isak will get 90. If you want your guy on the pitch at all times, that's Isak, not Jackson. But for the first 70 minutes of Isak, 70 minutes of Jackson, there's no contest for me. Jackson's the better pick. Haaland to Cunha, Johnson to Saka from -4. Yeah, probably. I do think Johnson's a sell. And I was asked to elaborate on that earlier. If Maddison gets picked, which you assume after his performance against Man City, Maddison gets a few games, then Johnson does not fit in the team because Kulu is a non-negotiable. He is Ange's boy. He's a 90-minute man. He's the reason why Maddison was out the team. We'll see Kulu on the right. We'll see Sonny on the left. You see Solanke up top. Maddison in the middle with Bentancur suspended. So with Sarr and Basuma. There is no space for, as good as he's been, for Brennan Johnson in that team if Maddison starts. Simple as that.
Hope is asking Saka against West Ham versus Palmer against Fulham. I mean, I have both of them in 2 weeks, but who to get first? Palmer. I think Palmer is more of a captaincy shout this week. And even next week.
Yeah, Southampton away. Guys, I think because Palmer hasn't produced FPL points in recent weeks, people aren't as hot on him. Don't forget how amazing he can be on his day and how great he was last season and how close he was to getting a double-digit haul probably against Leicester. Because if he scores that goal, he gets bonus points. And Madueke obviously blocked it on the line. Like, fine margins, guys. Dibbling to Matoma, yeah, fine. I wouldn't be captaining Haaland, but whatever.
Greg Williams asking Jackson Cunha to go with Isak and Pedro. Tough question. I think I'd probably go Solanke actually. I think I'd go Solanke out of the three.
We've done our captaincy chat, Wayne. We are both likely to go Palmer or Mbeumo. Rutter, Matt, he is a bit of a risky pick in terms of minutes. He's a bit of a rotation risk with the likes of Minter and Adingra, and Solly March will be back soon, and Kadioglu. That's 4 players who can play on the right side for Brighton. And Rutter is one of those. That's 5 players that can play on the right. With João Pedro and Welbeck fit, Rutter's route to the team is on the right. At the moment, he's got the spot. Doesn't mean he'll keep it. Verbruggen absolutely nailed, Wayne.
It should be nailed.
It's not De Zerbi ball anymore.
Are we confident of Raul's start? Yes, we've discussed this as well, that Raul is actually much better than Muniz, and his I mean, he might get subbed around the 70-75 minute mark, but his minutes aren't under threat.
Is that a Lazio shirt? I have got a Lazio shirt on the rail. This is a 94. No, 9 USA 94. Yeah, 94 warm-up top. You know when Baggio skied it over the bar? That was the warm-up top he wore. Burma, Watkins, De Palma, Jackson. I wouldn't be selling Burma this week, guys. He's got Leicester at home.
I can't sell him this week. I feel Freddie is asking, am I crazy doing Johnson, Jimenez, and Haaland out for Saka, Kone, and Pedro for -8? I won't take a -8 over there personally. I think if you can just do Haaland out and Johnson out for Pedro and Saka, that would be nice.
Cheers, Freddie. We appreciate you as always. Guys, thank you so much for watching. That has been loads of fun. If you were just tuning in, though, make sure you go back and watch the last hour of Chasing Green Arrows. We had a really good discussion on so many questions today. We've spoken about the budget Brazilians and captaincy, spoken about Bigmans team and defenders and the idea of Saka versus triple Arsenal defence. Loads of touch points, and it's a huge time in FPL at the moment to be catching up on all of that. So if you want Big Man's opinion especially, then make sure you go back and watch. If you have watched for the last hour and you're looking for something else to watch, this morning, Big Man, I spoke to the world number 13. His name is James. He's in New Zealand, and I've put the interview or the chat on my YouTube channel. So guys, if you fancy, then this is the chat. With world number 13, who has a really interesting way of playing that is absolutely working for him at the moment. He's been pretty much perma-captain on Salah all season, and he's captaining Salah again this week. So guys, that's it in the chat if you fancy watching that. We will be back on Friday, me and Big Man and maybe Dean, at 2 p.m. UK time. So stay tuned for that on Friday, guys. For now, we'll say our goodbyes. See you later.
Take care.